back to my corner of the internet. I'm Shannon, and today we are finally going to talk about Dr. Sleep. It's been out for a few weeks. I only finally got to see it last night because it didn't come here on opening week, which was a catastrophe for me personally. I live in a small town and we don't always get every movie on time. Then I was sick by the time it finally arrived and couldn't go and see it. So anyway, last night, on its final night in town, I got there. And you guys, we need to talk about it. So Dr. Sleep, for anyone who's unfamiliar, although I'm sure if you're watching this you are, is the sequel to the Stephen King book, The Shining. And it's also a sequel to the Stanley Kubrick film, The Shining. Now, if you know anything about the history between the book and the movie of The Shining, there's a lot of drama there. Stephen King did not like the film adaptation. So enter Mike Flanagan, who, as you know, if you've been around here for a while, I love, and I mean capital L, love Mike Flanagan. He's done so many of my favorite horror films and TV show, The Haunting of Hill House, of the past few years. I just think he's such a competent, talented, brilliant director, writer, the whole bit. And as soon as I heard he was taking on this project, all the worries I had about it left. For better or worse, I was relieved. I thought, Mike Flanagan's handling it, it's in good hands, we don't have to worry about it anymore. And him and Stephen King had worked together in the past in Gerald's Game on Netflix, which I loved. And yeah, I was ready for it. I was pumped. Honestly, if I had heard that anyone else was doing it, I might have been a bit more apprehensive. So anyway, fast forward to last night when I finally get to go and see it. When the trailer came out, I was pumped. Ewan McGregor is in the film, and he's Danny Torrance all grown up. And once that trailer came out, I was counting down the days until I could finally see it. So let's talk a bit about it. There's going to be spoilers in here, so just be ready for that. But otherwise, let's go. So in the book, as in the movie, there's a lot going on. We meet Danny. He's all grown up, like I said. He's in a dark place. All of the darkness that was in Jack, his father, is now inside of him. The anger, the alcoholism, just all of it. He's in a really dark place when we meet him. Then alongside with Danny, there's another character. She's kind of the opposite of him. Her name is Rose the Hat. She's the villain of the film. And she is kind of what happens to you if you take the gift of The Shining and use it for evil, kind of. She's like the opposite of Danny, is how I interpreted her. There's also like a sort of otherworldly monster creature type vibe to her, where what her and her gang, there's a bunch of them, probably about 10, what they do is they consume like children, because of course children are so pure and they're so innocent, so they abduct and consume the essence of these children who have The Shining, and they use it to sustain them. And so as the film is going along, we're seeing different children getting abducted. Then we see Danny, and he goes to a new town. He's moving, he needs a fresh start. And when he arrives in town, he meets a man named Billy, who just from looking at him can tell that this is a man who is broken, who is damaged, but who at his core is a good man. And he takes Danny, he gets him set up in an apartment, and he takes Danny with him to an AA meeting. And there, things change for Danny. And there's a part that we kind of fast forward to 8 years in the future, and there's a part where Danny's getting his 8-year sobriety chip. And he's talking about how his father died when he was so young, so the way he got to know his father was through the darkness that was inside of him that had also been inside of his father. But now he says he gets to know his father in a different way, because before they had went to the Overlook Hotel, Jack had stood in a meeting just like this and received a 5-month chip. And at that point, you know, he was trying hard to change, and in his heart all he wanted was to be where Danny was today. And that actually, I shed a tear at that scene. It was a really beautiful scene. So now Danny's 8 years sober. He's working at a, technically he's working as like an aide at a hospital, you know, doing cleanup and whatnot. But what he's really doing at the hospital is he's helping people cross over from this world into the next in a way that's not so scary for them, in a way that brings them peace and comfort. It's where he gets his nickname, Dr. Sleep. So he helps them pass. What a beautiful gift. What a beautiful thing to be able to do. And from there, he meets a little girl who also has the Shining. They begin communicating through, in his apartment, there's a wall that's a chalkboard. And she starts being able to, with her mind, write messages to him on the wall, and he communicates back. And throughout all of this, we're getting flashback scenes to The Shining. But they're not scenes from the actual film. They're scenes that Mike Flanagan reshot. He hired new actors. He hired an actress to play Wendy, who was such a fantastic woman for this role. Wendy, of course, being Danny's mom from the first movie. I feel like she really captured the essence of Shelley Duvall from The Shining. And then he gets a man to play Dick Hallorann, and he gets a child to play Danny, and so many scenes are recreated, and they're just so beautifully done. So we get recreations of scenes, then plus we get to see with these actors kind of what things happened immediately after Wendy and Danny left the Overlook. And it's really fantastic. We get to see the trauma, you know, how Danny kind of dealt with his trauma. He was not speaking for quite a while after he left. Then sort of the ghost of Dick Hallorann comes back to him and gives him a tool on how to deal with the creatures from the Overlook, the ghosts, the spirits, the energy from the Overlook that are still haunting Danny. And he gives him a very specific tool that works very well for Danny on how to lock them up inside his mind in boxes so that they can't torment him anymore. And those scenes were just, they were so well done. Part of me was really curious why they did recreations, like all recreations. Once I saw the movie, I understood it more. But when I had seen the trailer, I was wondering why. And I was reading an article about it, and I guess they had the full blessing of the Kubrick estate going forward with this film, but you know, Mike Flanagan just wanted to recreate them himself, and then it was able to be more in line with the scenes from after the Overlook when Danny's still a child, and it was just so good. So what happens going forward is Rose the Hat gets a glimpse in her mind of this young girl that's communicating with Danny. Her name is Abra, and she's very strong. Her shine is very, very, very strong. And Rose starts trying to track her and trying to find her because she wants that essence for herself. She wants to kill this child. And there's a lot of things that happen here in the middle. I'm not going to go through all of it because we'd be here literally all day. But eventually Rose is getting close to them and she is coming for Abra. So there's a scene where Danny goes to Abra and he's trying to figure out what to do, and he gets it in his mind that the best thing to do is to go back to the Overlook Hotel. At this point, it's been locked up for many, many years since everything happened with Jack and Wendy and Danny. Now, here's where I love how Mike Flanagan did this. Mike Flanagan has paid service to both The Shining, the film, and The Shining, the book. But this is an instance where he's kind of going more with the film, because in the book, the Overlook gets blown up at the end of The Shining. So for this, he's kind of staying more in line with the film, and Danny and Abra go back to the Overlook. And Danny's very afraid, of course, and he had told Abra about this place before, calling it very dangerous for people like them. And Abra wonders, you know, if it's such a dangerous place for us, why are we going there? And he said, because I think if it's a dangerous place for us, it's going to be a dangerous place for Rose as well. Then of course, while she's traveling, there's so much that happens. Like her entire, these are spoilers, her entire family, all of the people who are like her that she spends time with, they're all killed by Danny and his friend Billy. At which point Billy gets killed as well, and then back at Abra's house her father gets killed, but Danny and Abra manage to make it to the Overlook. So because of all the loss that's happened, Rose the Hat is in an absolute tailspin of grief and pain and rage, and so she begins to follow them to the hotel. So Danny and Abra get there first. They have a pretty good head start. They go in. Well, Danny tells Abra to stay in the car until you can see Rose is coming, and she says, well, what are you gonna do? And he says, I have to go inside. I have to wake it up. And this was the part I was waiting for. I was waiting for Danny to go back to that hotel. I was waiting to see all of the magic that Mike Flanagan had created, and boy did I. It paid off in ways I hadn't even hoped. So Danny goes in, he wakes it all up, he's walking through the hotel. We're seeing ghosts from the movie. We're seeing, you know, the woman in the bathtub, which we've seen her in other places. She's kind of been tormenting Danny. We see her, we see the twins, which technically aren't twins, they're sisters, but they look like twins. We see all of the beloved ghosts from the Overlook. It's weird to say beloved, but you know what I mean. Danny eventually makes his way to the bar. He goes in and he sits down. There's a glass sitting on the actual bar, and he begins talking to a bartender that we can't see. His name is Lloyd. He's got a bottle of Jack Daniels. He pours it. And then as Danny begins speaking to him, we know that that bartender, while he goes by Lloyd now, we know that that's Jack, his father. And this scene, I was in tears for almost all of this scene. It really got me. And what's amazing is it's Henry Thomas who plays Jack. Henry Thomas was E.T. when he was a kid, but most recently he was in Gerald's Game, and he was also in The Haunting of Hill House. Mike Flanagan has a bit of a pile of actors that he goes to again and again, and I love that, and they all work so well together. And it's him, it's a wig, it's makeup, and it wasn't until the credits rolled that I actually realized it was Henry Thomas. And so they're talking, and Danny kind of gets to say to him some of the things that he never got to say to him. And Jack, as Lloyd, is trying to tempt him by pouring him drinks, and Danny, you know, Danny's trying so hard to stay strong because, you know, shit's really hit the fan at this point, and it's getting harder for him to resist temptation. And there's a line where Danny says, man takes a drink, drink takes a drink, drink takes the man. And I loved that. And then eventually Jack is describing the alcohol as medicine, and he finally asks, are you gonna take your medicine? And Danny says no and smashes the glass off of the bar. Then it pans out a bit and we see that there's no one there. And it was just fantastic. It was so good. It gave me everything that I wanted. That scene, I've been waiting patiently for that scene for years and years and years, and I loved it. And Henry Thomas, I've tried to find a picture of him as Jack online to insert here, but I couldn't find one. But while he doesn't look exactly like Jack, he looks so much like him that it just works perfectly, in the same way that the actress who plays Wendy works so perfectly. It's an essence. And I saw an interview with Mike Flanagan where he talks about how he gives credit to Stanley Kubrick a bit for how to deal with these characters who have been consumed by the hotel. Because in The Shining, you know, Dilbert Grady, he's working in the bar now. He's in the bathroom as like a bathroom attendant. But he refuses to admit that he's Dilbert Grady who killed his family in the hotel. So Kubrick kind of set that up as the way to deal with it, kind of, that the hotel, once it consumes you, it digests you, you're a part of the hotel, and you're kind of reborn into staff, more or less. And so Jack has been reborn into Lloyd, the bartender, and Henry Thomas, he said that he was terrified to take on this role because it's such an iconic role. And like, Jack Nicholson is Jack Nicholson. Like, who's going to be able to do that? But he did it so well. And in that interview I saw with Mike Flanagan, you know, Henry Thomas was like, I don't want to do like a hokey impression of Jack Nicholson being Jack Torrance, and it just worked so well. There are a few lines that he says where you can hear like that Jack Nicholson accent come out, where there's one part right before he asks, are you going to take your medicine, where he goes on this kind of diatribe about a man does his best, or a man has his family or something, and just the inflection of his voice there sounds so much like Jack Nicholson. It was fantastic. Okay. I'm like out of breath because I'm just trying to get all my thoughts out. It was so good. It was better than I thought it was going to be, and I already had high hopes. So now I'm going to give you the final spoiler. If you do not want the spoiler for the ending, please click away now. I don't want to ruin anything for you. So here we go. At the very end, he's able to defeat Rose the Hat, although she puts up quite a fight. And he's able to get Abra out of the house into safety. He goes down into the boiler room, and we can see the hotel's about to blow. The hotel finally getting the ending that Stephen King gave it at the end of The Shining, where it just blows to smithereens. And in order to do that, he has to sacrifice himself to the hotel. But the hope, of course, is that by destroying it with fire, it cleanses and pures the energy. And so, knock wood, fingers crossed, Danny Torrance doesn't become part of the cast of characters inside the Overlook, but the general consensus is that fire will purify it, and all of the energies will be able to pass on and leave the Overlook. Ewan McGregor was an absolute delight in this film. There's something so soft and gentle about Ewan McGregor in general, but then that he brought to Danny that was just so lovely and just so perfect for this character. It's a lovely character. He does a beautiful job with it. Just fantastic. So yeah, the whole cast was just fantastic, and yeah, I could not have hoped for more. Anyway, if you're a regular to this channel and you're wondering, hey, it's Friday, why isn't this a book talk video? It's because I really, really wanted to get this up and out into the world. So tomorrow morning, I'm going to put up my book talk video for this week, and it's actually a Stephen King book. It's one that I hadn't read. I've read most of his books, but this was one that I had not read until this week. And so we're going to talk about it, and that is The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. And yeah, so stay tuned for that tomorrow if you are interested. I hope you have a fantastic week. Thank you so much for watching. If you liked this video, feel free to give it a thumbs up and maybe subscribe. I always love making new friends. See you guys on Monday. Bye.